10, which is motion 4. I'm an employee of RCA Trust, so I won't be taking part in that debate or voting on that motion. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Audrey Doig.
I declare a financial interest and will leave the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor McCulloch.
Thanks, Provost. On item 8, motion 2, I'll declare connection as an employee of a housing association. So the motion will be proposed by Councillor Montgomery and seconded by McMillan, and I'll leave the meeting at that point. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any more declarations of interest in either the motions or the business?
Yeah.
Kenny?
Yeah, I declare an interest in item 6 as Chair of Shop Mobility Peaceland District, so I'll leave the meeting at that stage and come back after. Thanks.
Kenny, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat it again, please? I'm sorry. I think you said motion 6 or item 6.
Item 6, I don't know what's up with my mic. Oh, that's what it is. I declare an interest in item 6 as Chair of Shop Mobility Peaceland District, so I'll leave the meeting at that stage and come back.
Okay, thank you. I think I should probably point out that I should have done it before, but I thought you would have all been familiar with it. To make sure you keep your microphones off if you're not speaking, okay, and to make sure you speak loudly and as clearly as you can, so that any votes or any other points of view can be recorded. No declaration of interest, yeah.
Thank you, Provost. I'm a volunteer for that housing association, so it's a non-financial interest, but I will remain for discussion.
Okay. Councillor Leishman.
Yep, Provost, Councillor Mags McLaren.
Anyone else?
Yes, Councillor Mags McLaren. I'd like to declare a connection with item 6, as I am the wife of Kenny McLaren, who's the Chair of Peaceland District Shop Mobility. Also, I'd like to say declare a connection in that I'm a board member of a housing association, but I will remain for both of those items.
Okay, Councillor McLaren, thank you. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Provost. Similar to Councillor Mags McLaren, I'm on the board of Linstone, but I'll be staying and taking part. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Councillor Leishman, could you repeat what you said again, please?
For motion 2, I'll declare a non-financial interest as I'm a volunteer for a housing association, but I will remain for discussion if that's okay.
Yeah. Mark Flanagan.
Can I just clarify, Councillor Leishman, if you declare an interest, you have to leave the meeting. Is it an interest you're declaring or a connection? Thank you.
Okay, I think that is us. Yeah. Okay, if anyone remembers anything halfway through the meeting, can you let me know as soon as possible? Okay, so before we move on to the official business, I would like to just mention one of our ex-councillors who passed away very recently. Ex-councillor Tommy Williams. And Tommy Williams was first elected in May 1984, and a lot of you will have worked with Tommy over the years. And I think that you would all agree that he quickly became a formidable member of the Renfrewshire Council Labour Group. The convenerships he held included the Housing and Property and Community and Family Care Policy Boards. And he also spent a time as Deputy Convener of Planning. And it was really unfortunate that he suffered ill health not long after his departure from the council and never really got to enjoy his retirement with his wife and daughter. That is really a shame. He is survived, as I said, by his loving and dedicated wife, Margaret, and his daughter, Lauren, and they are saying their final goodbyes to Tommy this morning. So I'm sure that you'll join me in sending them both our love and best wishes on this really difficult day. So I just wanted to mention that, and for us to all remember Tommy in our own way with our own relationships with him. Councillor Ian McMillan.
Thanks very much, Provost. It's such a shame that Tommy's funeral is at the same time as we're sitting here, because certainly most of the Labour group would have been along to his funeral, and my thoughts go with Margaret and Lauren. It's a very, very difficult time for them. And I think if you've been in the council for a wee while, like I have, you've seen the relationship that Tommy and Margaret had. They were very, very close. And I got to know Lauren as well, because Lauren was always kind of hanging about after school, and her dad was in meetings and she was sitting drawing at Tommy's desk. I've got great memories of Tommy. When I came into council in 1995, in those days it was the shadow year. I got to know all these formidable characters, and Tommy Williams was one of them. I'd only heard of these guys at meetings, bumped into them occasionally at leaflet dropping or rallies or whatever. To be honest with you, I was quite scared when I came in. But Tommy was one of the guys who was nothing but a help to me all along that time. Gave me lots of advice and how to deal with constituents, how to deal with officers, how to conduct yourself at meetings and all the rest of it. He was a great help. And it turned out I ended up being quite pally with Tommy. We used to sit beside each other in the labour room. And to be honest, we very seldom spoke about politics. Tommy had a great interest in films, music, and of course his beloved Celtic. So obviously, me being a Rangers supporter, I used to dread sometimes coming in a Monday morning to face him. I'm sure he thought the same as well when Rangers sometimes beat Celtic. But listen, as I say, I've known Tommy for a long, long time. He'll be sadly missing. It's a shame we can't be there to pay tribute to him at his funeral today. But thoughts are very much with Margaret and Lauren.
And just to let you all know that I have already sent a letter of condolence on behalf of all of us to his wife. Okay, move on now. I would like to, this is not on the agenda, but I'd like to propose that we make a donation to the DECA appeal for the earthquake suffered there in Turkey and Syria. And obviously that would be subject to the usual conditions that we have followed before in previous years when we've made donations to the DECA appeal. And so I'd like to know if you're all in agreement with that. Councillor McMillan?
Yeah, I think we've all been absolutely horrified when we see that in our television screens. It seems to have kind of fallen off the television screens, but these people are going to have to live with that terrible tragedy for years and years and years to come. I contacted Councillor Nicholson probably either the day or the day after about it, asking if we could make a donation. So I'm glad that's happening. I'm sure, speaking on behalf of all 43 councillors, that we would fully support a donation to that fund. Thank you very much, Provost.
A donation of £10,000. I think that's kind of roughly what we've done before. Yeah, do I need a seconder for that? Right, okay. Thank you for that then. Thank you, everyone. Now, just to let you all know that we have an emergency motion from Councillor Ian McMillan, seconded by Councillor Sam Mullen, which I am going to accept and add it on to the end of the list of motions in today's business. I think, Dave, have you sent it around the members? Okay, Dave will circulate it around you all just now. And it'll give you time to have a wee read of it before we actually discuss the motion. So that brings us on to the minutes of the meetings of council boards and panels. Councillor Campbell, I think you have an amendment to make.
Yes, Provost. There has been there was a slight error in the documentation that's been corrected, a typo, and just to give clarity, that's been circulated around members this morning. So I'm proposing the minutes as amended this morning. I do apologise, Provost. Thank you.
Okay, could you read it out to me just now, Councillor?
It's the document that everyone should have had circulated.
Okay, right. Oh yes, I see. Yeah, I've got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, just to explain to elected members, there was an exempt item at the end of that particular agenda. The minute failed, the minute was originally issued, failed to record the fact that there had been 2 amendments initially moved. One was then withdrawn, and the matter did go to a vote between the paper and the amendment. So the revised minute is just capturing that vote, and that's all. It doesn't change anything in relation to the decision. It's simply the fact that the vote on the amendment procedure had not been recorded in the initial documentation.
Is everyone okay with that? Yeah? Okay, so can we agree the minutes of meetings of council boards and panels? Agreed. Provost updates. I have Jim.
Provost, just because I don't want to interrupt the meeting later now that I've had sight of the emergency motion. Just wanted to declare an interest as Renfrewshire representative in SBT, because SBT are mentioned. It's not a financial interest, it's a connection, so I intend to stay and take part in any discussion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Jim. Provost update. So Dave has my update for this session, and he'll send it around you all. So, and again, as usual, if you have any questions about anything on that, please just feel free to contact me. Or if you want any details about any of the charities or organisations on there, I'm happy to give them to you. So before we actually move on, I just want to make you aware of the email that you all have had from Mark Conahan, outlining the procedure to be followed at this budget meeting, and to draw your attention to the section 112 statement regarding declarations in terms of section 112 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992. Is your attention duly drawn? Thank you so much. And to also let you know that we have rooms set out for the groups to retire to discuss the motions, and I'll be giving you 20 minutes, a 20-minute recess, okay, to discuss those. Can I ask if you have any amendments or motions to let me know at the beginning, so that we can all have them when we take the recess to consider them. That brings us on to item D, the Revenue Budget and Council Tax 2023 to 24. When you bring in Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Provost. I have a motion here. Do you want me to speak to this motion just now, or?
Has it been circulated to members? We don't have an electronic version of this, John.
We don't have an electronic version.
So we'll need to scan this in to send to the 3 councillors who are not here.
Okay.
Who
Are
are
you able
not,
to
who are
forward
not
on
here
a?
in the room.
I think Alison might be able to forward on a word copy.
Okay, we have a copy sent to Dave, and I'll make sure that he sends it around, John, if you want to go ahead and speak.
Okay, thanks, Provost. Good morning, everyone. It will come as no surprise to members that setting this year's budget has been extremely challenging, to say the least. Set against a backdrop of the Tory cost of living crisis, Brexit, and Russia's terrible actions in Ukraine. And whilst we continue to manage the long-term impact of the pandemic, a combination which has created sustained hardship in many of our communities. With that in mind, I would like to take the opportunity to sincerely thank council officers and elected colleagues for their rapid response to help ease pressure on local households. Direct financial advice and support, and the rollout of the Winter Connections programme has been a lifeline, and I'm very, very grateful to everyone involved, including our partners. For ensuring dignity and respect remain fundamental to Renfrewshire's response, A Fairer Renfrewshire was the SNP administration's firm pledge in last year's budget, and this commitment continues today. The council, like all households in Renfrewshire, is managing unprecedented cost increases, utility charges, materials and fuel increases, the cost of care, everything from paying our staff to the cost of a school meal. There is no area of the council's business unaffected, and despite a small increase in our grant settlement, the majority ring-fence for specific national initiatives, the reality is we simply cannot deliver the same services in the same way as before. For that reason, the 23-24 budget has been designed to build two things: the council's financial sustainability and a fairer Renfrewshire. Considerable service redesign has contributed to the £8.3 million of savings that make up the 23-24 budget, in addition to the £160 million already saved by the council since 2010, generated in the main by the same service areas and with a significant proportion coming from services that aren't immediately visible but support frontline service delivery and are critical to council operations. It is important that we reflect on that and the commitment of our staff to drive change. The report from officers is clear that short-term solutions and transformation alone will not close the budget gap. Delivering further savings will require some radical change and decision-making, and everyone will have their part to play. With that in mind, I'll move on to the SNP administration budget for 23-24. I can confirm that the total Scottish Government grant for Renfrewshire Council for 23-24 is £389.764 million, and this includes provision for grant settlement conditions. From this, Renfrewshire Council will continue to direct funding to Renfrewshire Health and Social Care Partnership with a recurring £3.3 million to enable payment of the living wage to our health and social care colleagues, and over £1 million each year to meet the 22-23 local government pay award. We have set aside £16.9 million for pay inflation for council staff, and recognising the dedication of the workforce, we will continue to protect our position of no compulsory redundancies. We are protecting our £424.236 million capital investment programme and maintaining the council's unallocated reserves at £10 million. We intend to set a base budget today of £483.228 million and increase Renfrewshire's council tax by 6%. This means council tax for the forthcoming year will be £1,436.17 per Band D, representing an increase of around £81.29 per annum, or £6.77 per month at this level. We have applied a below-inflation 5% uplift for service charges, and in line with councils across Scotland, we are introducing a garden waste permit scheme set at £40 per household for the collection of garden waste. This will be introduced during 23-24. We are continuing to build on the SNP administration landmark road investment in roads, with £3 million from capital grant funds, bringing this year's investment to £6.7 million. In addition, we are committing £450,000 to improve road safety, targeting Houston, Howwood, Kilbarchan and Bridge of Weir. This funding, combined with cycling, walking and safer routes funding, means £1.5 million in investment over 3 years to enhance the natural environment of our villages and make access routes safer. A further £150,000 would be invested to deliver improvement plans for Bishopton, Lochwinnoch and Elderslie. This brings me on to fairer Renfrewshire. We know that many households and families have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic and the Tory cost of living crisis. This administration has consistently prioritised putting additional money into people's pockets. I'm delighted to continue support available to local people where and when it is needed most. To do this, we will increase the Scottish Welfare Fund by £200,000 and consolidate another £5 million of funding to drive our fairer Renfrewshire commitment. £68,000 over 2 years to support advice services through Renfrewshire Citizen Advice Bureau, £300,000 to enable a £50 winter school clothing payment to children eligible for school clothing grants, £100,000 to programme summer activities targeting children and young people from low-income families, providing access to play, sport and a healthy meal. We will redirect £1.5 million of economic development investment, recognising outcomes successfully achieved, to initiatives which promote community collaboration and enhance wellbeing and provide for a greener future. £200,000 to boost the Successful Villages Investment Fund, £90,000 through award-winning Teen Up to Clean Up to deliver the first year of a public litter bin replacement programme. And continuing to lead Renfrewshire's net zero aspirations, we will launch a new Sustainable Communities Fund, combining the current Community Empowerment Fund and the Climate Change Fund into one single, easy-to-access £1 million fund. We will invest more in children and young people and their families, recognising the vital role fostering and kinship care plays for children and young people, and the long-term positive impact our carers make to a young person's future. We will invest £210,000 to increase fostering kinship carers allowance by 10%, an interim measure, whilst a substantive review of the key levels of allowances is undertaken over the course of 23-24, with recurring financial implications being incorporated into future financial plans. We will boost investment that widens access to sporting activity and safe, clean and green outdoor space. £450,000 invested in play areas in addition to the funding provided by the Scottish Government. An initial £50,000 to begin to expand the concessionary swim programme to children of preschool age, and £200,000 as an initial contribution to the resurfacing of the running track at Onyx to benefit local athletes and schools. Through the Council's Future Paisley programme, we will invest £200,000 to replenish the hugely popular Culture, Heritage and Events Fund, enabling local cultural organisations, groups and freelancers to deliver cultural activity for people of all ages across Renfrewshire. Today's SNP budget safeguards the Council's financial future and that of our communities, and reinforces Council plan commitments to create a fairer and greener Renfrewshire for everyone. It refocuses and prioritises investments in the areas that we know matter most to our communities right now. I would like to end by thanking Alison MacArthur and his team for their support in preparation of the budget today, and I recommend that members approve the 23-24 revenue budget, increase council tax for 23-24 by 6%, and agree the investments outlined in this budget motion. Thank you, Provost.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. I apologise for that look at the beginning. I think Dave has now forwarded on your motion to all members. Okay, Councillor Nicholson.
Happy to second the motion, Provost, and reserve the right to speak.
Okay, Councillor Montgomery.
Provost, after the delivery of that budget from Councillor Shaw, I'll need to now declare an interest, a financial interest as an employee, Renfrewshire Citizens Advice Bureau, who are a beneficiary of some of the funding in the budget, and I'll leave the meeting at this point.
Okay, I'll make sure someone comes to get you finished. Okay, Councillor McLaren and then Councillor Dowling. James McLaren.
Provost, yes, thank you. It's regarding the director's report on page 21 at 5.17, which says there's no provision for Dargable Primary School. So I'm thinking this doesn't show any commitment to the village of Bishopton when 87 million is being committed to Paisley Grammar School.
Sorry, could you tell me where you're reading from?
5.17 on page 21.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
So I'm really looking for an update, please, as to where this money is going to come from, because we all know that a new primary school is required, and the sooner the first spade hits the ground, the better.
Okay, can I please just ask for any amendments or other motions first, and then we can certainly ask the officers to get that information to you and the rest of the councillors. That's no problem.
Okay, thank you, Provost.
Councillor Anne Dowling.
Thank you, Provost. I also have to declare a connection now that I've heard the administration's budget, because I am the chair of Renfrewshire Citizen Advice, so I will leave the meeting at this point.
Sorry, can I just clarify, Councillor?
Dowling, I don't think you need to leave.
Councillor Dowling, can I just clarify, if you're declaring a connection, you don't require to leave. If you're declaring an interest, you do. So are you declaring an interest or a connection?
I would have to ask for further advice then, because in previous years I have left the chamber, and I wouldn't want to provide mischievous viewers, let's say, let's call them that, with the opportunity to lodge a complaint. So could I get some advice on
I
that
think
basis?
the guidance was relaxed a bit though, wasn't it?
If you're content, councillor Dowling, we can have a discussion when we move to the adjournment.
Yeah.
And I can give you further advice at that stage so you can form a view.
I would be presenting our amendment though, before the adjournment.
Okay, do you want 2 minutes to talk to Mark outside? I'm happy to give
Perfect.
you that
Yeah,
so that
thank
you
you.
can keep yourself right. Okay. Okay, you can have a wee blend amongst yourselves for 2 minutes.
It's not. Well, there's some money doing it. That's going to smoke and mirrors.